Every day, we see the darker side of the world around us. We witness how people can hurt others in ways that are hard to understand. It's a sad part of life, but it's something we can't ignore. As someone who dives into the world of crime, I'm here to share the most shocking stories and try to understand what drives people to do such things. I'm Michael, and today, I've got another unreal true crime story for you. It was a quiet morning in Fayetteville, North Carolina, when a 911 call broke the silence. A mother said her little girl was unresponsive, claiming she'd been sick for days. When paramedics arrived, they found 2-year-old Macy Grace barely alive, her tiny body covered in bruises that didn't make sense. As doctors tried to save her, questions started piling up. The mother's story didn't add up, and details about what happened that morning didn't seem right. What really happened to Macy? How could such a happy, innocent child end up like this? The truth would uncover a heartbreaking story that left a family and a community searching for answers. Macy Grace entered the world on December 14, 2012, bringing joy to her parents, Jeannie and Kevin. Born with a condition called ankylosing, often referred to as being tongue-tied, Macy faced a small hurdle early on. This condition, which restricted her tongue's movement due to a tight band of tissue, was resolved with a simple surgical procedure during her infancy. From the start, Macy stood out with her curly brown hair, bright brown eyes, and an infectious smile. She was a lively and happy baby, often found chasing butterflies or playing with her favorite dolls. Her great-aunt Shelley Smith affectionately dubbed her Mixie Trixie Fairy Pixie, a nickname reflecting Macy's sweet and curious personality. Macy adored the movie Frozen, loved splashing in the pool, and had a special bond with Shelley's dog Bourbon. Videos of her childhood captured moments of love and laughter, Macy giving an animated lecture to her uncle in baby talk, stealing and returning her dad's ball cap, and gleefully riding a Ferris wheel for the first time. One bedtime video showed her blowing kisses to the camera, saying, "Night, night," with her signature radiant smile. Jeannie, Macy's mother, had a turbulent past. Described as a challenging child, Jeannie's early years were marked by instability and family conflict. She often sought attention, sometimes using manipulation to get her way. After her parents divorced, Jeannie chose to live with her father, a decision that reportedly stemmed from fueling arguments to push her mother to send her away. Her teenage years saw her attending multiple high schools in Pennsylvania before graduating from Stroudsburg High in 2011. Seeking a fresh start, Jeannie joined the military, but old habits persisted. During basic training in Missouri, her actions, such as falling asleep on fire watch, caused trouble for her entire unit. In 2012, Jeannie married Kevin, and the couple relocated to Fort Bragg, North Carolina. Later that year, Macy was born at Womack Medical Center while Kevin was deployed overseas. Despite his absence during Macy's birth, Kevin returned home shortly after to meet his newborn daughter. Jeannie's Aunt Shelley became a significant part of their lives, visiting North Carolina to assist with the baby and staying in touch through daily FaceTime calls. As Macy grew, Jeannie juggled various jobs, working at a gym, a car dealership, and an oral surgeon's office. During this time, Kevin was deployed again, this time to the UAE. Their separation strained the marriage, leading to rumors of infidelity and an eventual divorce. Jeannie frequently shared videos of Macy online, showcasing the toddler's playful and spirited nature. However, some posts raised eyebrows. In one video, Macy threw a tantrum, with the caption stating, "Macy doesn't like to share her mommy." In another, Macy, dressed in a pink onesie, stood on a nightstand, grinning at the camera as Jeannie playfully scolded her off-screen. While these moments appeared harmless, the tone of Jeannie's comments and her casual approach to potential risks concerned some family members. In 2014, Jeannie delved into competitive bodybuilding, placing 11th in a North Carolina competition's bikini division. During this time, she left Macy with Aunt Shelley for a month, claiming to be busy with personal matters. Jeannie's manipulative tendencies resurfaced as she withheld Macy's location from Kevin, preventing him from speaking to his daughter on her second birthday. While Shelley and other family members cherished their time with Macy, they worried about Jeannie's erratic behavior and prolonged absences. When concerns arose, Jeannie often deflected or distanced herself from her family. The family always found Jeannie's parenting style unsettling. Her willingness to leave Macy with different babysitters for weeks or months at a time, and her casual attitude about the child's absence raised concerns. Relatives, including her Nana and father's family, worried about Macy's well-being, but they cherished the moments they had with her. Whenever questions arose about bruises or Macy's lack of communication, Jeannie dismissed them with excuses, saying Macy was sick, tired, or staying with a friend. Any marks were explained away as part of Macy's growth and development. Trusting Jeannie as family, they didn't suspect she could harm her own daughter. Some of Macy's babysitters, however, voiced concerns online. One claimed Macy was often neglected, appearing dirty and unkempt because Jeannie didn't bathe her or care for her properly. Another recalled Macy being dropped off at a gym daycare, where she'd stay all day and into the evening, allowing Jeannie to avoid watching her. A daycare worker at the gym even reported Jeannie to CPS, but no action was taken. Friends who raised these concerns with Jeannie were met with lies or outright dismissal. Instead of addressing her behavior, Jeannie would cut people out of Macy's life and move on to a new babysitter. On March 3, 2015, Jeannie posted a troubling photo of Macy online. In the picture, Macy sat crying on the apartment floor. The caption read, "When your child covers your house with toothpaste while you're in the shower and then gives attitude and tells you no." Below the post, Jeannie wrote, "She's going to know what a sort feels like by the end of the day. I'm about to break out the wooden spoon." By this time, Jeannie and Kevin were separated, and Jeannie frequently referred to herself as a single mother. Kevin was still stationed in Dubai, while Jeannie began dating Zachary Kiefer, a 31-year-old paramedic and former Special Forces soldier, despite Zach still being married. In April 2015, Jeannie re-enlisted in the Army. She and Macy lived in the Stone Ridge Apartments in Fayetteville, just minutes from the base. On November 30th, Jeannie texted Zach multiple times about Macy being unwell, describing her diarrhea and accidents in exasperated tones. At one point, Jeannie admitted to hitting Macy, saying, "I lit Macy up." Later, she texted about forcing Macy into a cold bath, scaring her so badly that the toddler hid in a closet. Jeannie chillingly texted Zach, "I'll give her a reason to be scared, the little bitch." The next morning, December 1st, Jeannie took Macy to Womack Army Medical Center. A pediatrician examined Macy, who appeared sleepy but showed no visible injuries. He diagnosed her with gastroenteritis and colitis, likely caused by a stomach bug. That evening, Jeannie texted Zach, complaining about Macy's sickness and messiness, saying she gave the child a large dose of melatonin and made her stand in the corner until she fell asleep. Later, she would tell officials that Macy slept through the night and woke briefly the next morning. On December 2nd, Jeannie's account of what happened to Macy became a web of inconsistencies. She called Zach, claiming Macy was sick and asking him to check on her. When Zach arrived, he reportedly heard Macy making strange noises and found her vomiting through her nose, her limbs flailing as if oxygen deprived. Zach tried to clear her airway and told Jeannie to call 911. Jeannie's demeanor during the 911 call was unsettlingly calm. She described Macy's breathing as faint and claimed the child had been vomiting in her sleep. Despite the dispatcher's insistence, Jeannie hesitated to provide necessary details and claimed to be outside the apartment for better reception. First responders arrived to find Macy unresponsive and cold to the touch, with a body temperature of 92 degrees. At the ER, as her body warmed, bruises began to surface. Macy had injuries on her neck, marks resembling a handprint and fingernail scratches, and patches of missing hair. She was transferred to UNC Hospital in Chapel Hill, where doctors confirmed severe brain injuries. Tragically, Macy's condition was beyond recovery. As authorities investigated, they discovered glaring discrepancies in Jeannie and Zach's stories. Macy, who had supposedly been sick in pajamas, arrived at the hospital in a new dress with price tags still attached. Her braided hair suggested she'd been groomed after falling unresponsive. The injuries to her neck and head could not be explained by any version of events Jeannie provided. When Jeannie's Aunt Shelley arrived at the hospital, she was met by CPS and police. Shelley later described her shock upon seeing Macy in her hospital bed. Shelley confronted Jeannie, asking what had happened to Macy. Jeannie stared silently out the window, refusing to answer or even look at her. Jeannie insisted Macy had been sick and suggested that the paramedics and doctors caused the injuries. Shelley, disbelieving, accused her directly. "You did this. You did this to her." Jeannie responded with anger, telling her to leave. Kevin, who was deployed overseas, was rushed home by the Red Cross. He arrived just in time to sit with Macy, hold her, and give her one final bath before life support was removed. On December 4, 2015, Macy passed away. What followed only added to the heartbreak. Jeannie and Zach set up a GoFundMe campaign allegedly for funeral expenses, but Kevin's military benefits already covered these costs. After family and friends reported the fundraiser as fraudulent, Zach took it down. The $6,000 collected before its removal was never accounted for. Jeannie even tried to exclude Shelley and Kevin from Macy's funeral, a move that failed. During the planning, Jeannie insisted on dressing Macy in a sleeveless black dress and a sparkly headband. The funeral director refused, ensuring the bruises on Macy's arms would not be visible. On the day of the funeral, Jeannie arrived over an hour late, having prioritized getting her hair done. Despite these distractions, the family honored Macy with a touching service at the John F. Kennedy Memorial Chapel in Fort Bragg on December 21, 2015. Macy was laid to rest 2 days later at Sand Hill State Veterans Cemetery in Spring Lake, North Carolina. As investigations into Macy's death unfolded, shocking details emerged. Police questioned Jeannie, Zach, Kevin, and even Zach's estranged wife, Lisa. Lisa later alleged that Zach had held her hostage for hours, physically assaulting her and threatening her with a gun. He was arrested on multiple charges, including first-degree kidnapping, but was released on $17,000 bail. Shortly after, he left the military and moved in with Jeannie at the same apartment complex where Macy had lived, albeit in a different unit. In the months that followed, Jeannie sold Macy's belongings on Facebook Marketplace, saying she couldn't bear to see them anymore. In January 2016, She hired a photographer for a bizarre photo shoot. The photographer specialized in photoshopping images of deceased loved ones into new pictures. Jeannie told him that Macy had choked on a banana and died, requesting a photo shoot at the cemetery where she could be reunited with her daughter. The resulting images featured a ghostly Macy alongside her mother. The photos, intended to evoke sympathy, backfired. Public outrage grew as details of Jeannie's suspected involvement in Macy's death emerged. On March 23, 2016, the medical examiner ruled Macy's death a homicide. The next day, Jeannie and Zach were arrested, charged with first-degree murder and negligent child abuse. Both were held without bond. As the case progressed, Jeannie altered her story, claiming Zach was responsible for Macy's injuries. She fabricated a timeline in which she left Macy in Zach's care during an alleged doctor's appointment, only to return and find her injured. Records showed she signed in at the medical office but never attended an appointment. Jeannie also claimed Macy had fallen in the bathtub days earlier. Investigators found her stories inconsistent, riddled with contradictions. The evidence pointed to a more sinister truth, one that would ultimately define the legacy of a life cut tragically short. Jeannie's account of events on the morning of Macy's death was riddled with contradictions. Initially, she claimed to have fed Macy a banana that morning. Later, she changed her story, saying Zach had given Macy the banana while she was allegedly at a doctor's appointment. Both versions of the story were repeated to friends and family, adding confusion. In her attempt to explain Macy's condition, Jeannie offered a variety of excuses, ranging from a collapsed lung to a blood disorder, similar to one her aunt, related only by marriage, had suffered. She also claimed to be afraid of Zach, alleging he had committed domestic violence against her, though recent bikini competition photos showed no signs of injury. As part of the investigation, police administered polygraph tests to both Jeannie and Zach. While Zach passed his test, Jeannie failed hers. Zach maintained a consistent story, stating he arrived at the apartment to help Macy and tried his best to save her life. However, the domestic violence charges from his ex-wife, Lisa, cast doubt on his credibility. Lisa alleged injuries to her head and neck, similar to those Macy had suffered, though medical records showed no evidence of skull fractures or internal bleeding. In early 2019, Zach was acquitted of the charges against Lisa, with speculation that her accusations may have been fueled by resentment over his relationship with Jeannie. In November 2019, the district attorney announced new medical evidence. The findings revealed that Macy's injuries occurred 12 to 24 hours before the 911 call, long before Zach arrived at the apartment. With this revelation, all charges against Zach were dropped. Macy's family largely supported this decision, believing Zach was innocent and had been manipulated by Jeannie. After spending 44 months in jail, Zach was released and expressed a desire to focus on his daughter with Lisa. However, social media updates suggested he was no longer part of her life. Jeannie's trial began on March 9, 2020. Her defense argued that Zach was responsible for Macy's injuries and that Jeannie lied out of fear of him. The prosecution countered that Jeannie was solely responsible for Macy's death. Witnesses described Jeannie's unsettling behavior while Macy was hospitalized. A nurse testified that Jeannie showed little emotion, a stark contrast to most parents in similar situations. Another nurse practitioner recalled Jeannie appearing happy during a discussion about removing Macy from life support. When told her daughter wouldn't survive, Jeannie reportedly responded, "Well, I guess that makes me a bad fucking mother." The medical examiner's testimony painted a grim picture of Macy's final hours. She had suffered at least 30 blows to the head, causing scalp hemorrhages, cerebral edema, and bleeding in her brain. Macy also had extensive injuries to her body, including bruises consistent with being struck by an electrical cord, healing liver lacerations, and cuts inside her mouth. A clump of her hair was found in the bathtub drain, suggesting it had been forcibly removed. While blunt force trauma was listed as the official cause of death, the examiner noted that smothering or drowning could not be ruled out. During the trial, Jeannie's lack of emotional response was stark. She sat unmoved during graphic testimony about Macy's injuries, but broke into tears when Zach dismissed their relationship, referring to her as just a piece of it. The jury deliberated but failed to reach a unanimous verdict. 10 jurors voted to convict Jeannie, but 2 dissented. They believed in physical discipline for children and couldn't reconcile how Jeannie's hands could be deemed deadly weapons. The judge declared a mistrial. After the mistrial, the case underwent significant changes. Though Jeannie remained in jail on a $300,000 bond, her time behind bars seemed uncertain as her legal saga continued. In April 2021, Jeannie was offered a plea deal for second-degree murder, but she rejected it, stating she would only plead guilty to lesser charges like felony child abuse, interfering with a police investigation, and accessory. When asked what she meant by accessory, Jeannie refused to clarify and insisted she would rather face trial. Her next trial was scheduled for November 2021. However, days before it began, Jeannie's attorney filed a motion requesting that the court reinstate the original 2018 plea deal, which would allow her to be released with time served. The judge appeared sympathetic to Jeannie, believing she was more of a victim, and approved the motion. While district attorney appealed the decision to a higher court, the judge lowered Jeannie's bond and released her on an unsecured $25,000 signature bond just before Thanksgiving. In an interview, Macy's grandmother, Tina Goodwin, stated, "We will fight for our last breath until this baby gets the justice she deserves." Both Tina and Aunt Shelley remain deeply concerned that Jeannie could harm someone else if left unchecked. Their concerns seem justified. After Macy's funeral, Jeannie continued to cause turmoil. Macy was buried in a military cemetery, and typically, both parents' names and ranks are listed on the headstone. However, Jeannie convinced officials that she needed protection from Kevin, claiming he didn't care enough to attend the meeting to choose Macy's headstone. In truth, Kevin was advised to stay away from Jeannie for legal reasons. As a result, Jeannie ensured only her name appeared on Macy's headstone. By the end of 2022, Kevin and Jeannie finalized their divorce. Soon after, Jeannie adopted a new identity, going by Jenna, and began dating again. Her online dating profile stated, "I've been through hell. I have a past, but I have a present and a future. I'm upfront and honest, and I don't want someone who's not understanding. Let's do life together." In addition to changing her name, Jeannie altered her appearance with cosmetic tattoos, lip injections, and other procedures. In November 2023, she gave birth to another baby girl. Despite never being found guilty of a crime, Jeannie retains custody of the child. Since Macy's death, Aunt Shelley has been an unwavering advocate for justice. She runs the Justice for Macy Facebook group, marking every birthday and holiday without her beloved Mixie Trixie Fairy Pixie. She even got a tattoo in honor of Macy. Shelley believes Macy sends her small signs of love, like when loose change mysteriously appears or songs like Girl Crush by Little Big Town play on the radio. Shelley often posts tributes to Macy online. One message read, "It's been a long time. Everyone moves on, but for those who truly loved you, we're still holding on. We talk about you daily. We think of you 1,000 times a day. We celebrate your life and mourn your death. If wishes were hugs, you'd be covered in them. If wishes were enough, you'd still be here. There's never a day your name isn't spoken. Never a day you aren't missed. Missing you now more than ever. Thanks for tuning in to Unreal True Crime. If you're intrigued by mysteries from around the world, check out our new channel, Latin Crimes, where we dive into the gripping true crime stories of Latin America. Don't miss out. Subscribe now for more thrilling investigations.